Hi, everyone, again. Welcome to our third learning webinar of 2026, Structure Formulas Unlocked. As the title suggests, today's session is all about diving deeper into structure formulas, which is Structure's built-in scripting language, to just show you how to manage projects a little bit more effectively and make smarter decisions. Thanks again for joining us today, and thanks in advance to those of you who are going to ask questions during the session. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. My name is Becky. I'm a learning content specialist here at Tempo. Part of my role is just making sure that customers like you gain value from learning sessions like this one. So again, please provide any feedback or anything around how you felt today and what you were able to take home from this. We have a few others on the call today. We've got Alexander, who you'll be hearing from the most in the session. He's our senior product expert for Structure. We also have Julia, who is our senior product manager for Structure. She'll be covering the roadmap a little bit later in the session. Last, we have Dimitri, who is a QA team lead. He's going to be in the background and will be helping to answer any questions you may have today. So as you can see, we do have a wealth of knowledge for this session. So trust that you're in good hands to ask the questions you have regarding structure formulas. All right, so we'll cover the agenda here. We talked on some housekeeping items. For the topics for the session, we're going to give you a brief overview of structure formulas and why they're so powerful. We'll then delve a little bit deeper into the fundamentals of formulas and how to get them set up. Next, we'll talk about the new Formula Assistant in Structure. We'll then build some formulas live. After that, we'll take a look at some of the new and exciting features coming out for Structure. And then we'll end with the Q&A and some resources for continued learning and support.
Thank you, Becky. Hi, everyone. All right, let's begin. So what the structure formulas are and why you would like to use that. So formula, it's a functionality that exists with Structure for many years. It's originally was on DC version. It's migrated to cloud, and it gained almost all the DC functionalities now. So the reason of using this formula is to grab the information you already have in Structure, in Jira, in different fields, the values from this field, and slice and dice it so that it would give you more that you already have. You can think about it as formulas like you have in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets that allows you to rearrange the information you already have or highlight some of the information you have there. So it's not only the aggregation function, summarizing, averaging, it's also deriving some information from what you already have and highlighting some specific spots of that information, so some specific metrics that are not easily visible right as it is in Jira. So you can calculate fields, you can compare values, you can build different metrics using the different logic within these formulas. And at the end, you can then copy all that information back into the Jira fields if you want to. Can you go to the next slide, please? So some fundamentals before we move to the examples. The language which is used in formulas called Expert. It's the language we developed specifically for this functionality. It's in some way it resembles some of the development languages. So there are functions, there are variables. You can use some of the similar logic, but it's not a full-fledged development language, so you cannot have experience with programming. It's totally okay. So it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to resemble the Excel Google Sheet formulas, which I already mentioned. The way it works, it calculates values for each row. So you have rows of hierarchies, and formula calculates each value for each row individually. It's composable, meaning that you can write some of the expression in the formula and then reuse that expression within the same formula later. And the type conversion means that it will try to guess what output type you want to get from it. So if it's number, it's number. If it's text, it's text. But sometimes you would have to select the specific output to be visualized correctly, and I will show that on the examples. All right, some formal entities. I'm going to reference to that throughout my presentation a lot, so I decided to walk through that at the beginning. So we have variables, which is any field or value, something that you're going to use in the formulas. Functions are, well, as it sounds, it's a function that does some kind of operation, can be mathematical operation with can be comparison. If else is a pretty simple example of function. It's conditional function. Properties, it's something that exists additionally to original values. So when I speak about Jira fields, Sprint field has properties. So Sprint has start date, end date. It has status. It has values like it's active, it's closed. It's not a real value in the Sprint field. It's a property of that particular value, and Formula can access that and operate with these properties. Embedded queries, we can embed the G-code queries inside the formulas to increase the capabilities with what kind of information we can grab with formulas. And Wiki Markdown, it's a syntax. It's a formatting syntax. It's not part of the export language, not really part of the formulas, but it's formatting syntax that Jira supports, and you can use it in summaries, and we can use it as well in the formulas to highlight some of the information, like make text bold. We can add colors, we can add backgrounds, so anything that brings more attention to the particular formal results. Can I go to the next slide? So Structure Formula Assistant, it's a recent addition to the functionality. It works within Rovo Agent, and Rovo Agent is an AI function within Jira itself. We have agent, which you can consider it as a skill. So it's addition to the Rovo itself that helps with the writing formulas, with composing the formulas using native language. So you can just explain what you want to get, what kind of formula, what you should be doing, and hopefully it will give you the meaningful result. As any AI, the more specific prompt you are using, the more specific you are explaining what you want to get, the more correct result is. I'm going to show you a couple of examples today, how you can write the formulas using the syntax itself directly, and how you can do the same using the native language, using Formula Agent, and what kind of difference between those two, and what kind of problems can occur during this approach. But anyway, it's a very good way to start writing a formula. So if you have no experience and you want to start with something simple, just can type what you want to get, and Formula Agent will help you to begin with. Hope everyone can see my screen now. We will start with something simple. I will gradually increase the complexity of the formulas I'm going to use. The goal is not really teach everyone today how to write formulas. It's not possible to do in 1 hour. The goal is to show the capabilities, the functionality itself, what you can do, and how you can try to write your own formulas, even with the Formula Assistant. But I will more concentrate on the syntax itself, because it will be helpful to understand the logic behind the formulas. Plus, it will help you to spot the any errors you can stumble upon with the formulas. All right. First of all, formula available in multiple places, but in most of the use cases for the formulas is formula column, and it's available here as a standard column with the new formula. The formula window consists of the window itself where the code lives and some additional buttons, and I'm gonna unravel what that means during the presentation. So let's start with something simple. I mentioned variables. So variables is anything that contains value information, and it can be a field, and normally it's a Jira field. So I'm going to type story points, and as I type in, the formula window would suggest me some options here from the fields, functions, variables. So I'm going to choose the story points, which is a field, and I can check here that it is mapped correctly to story points field in Jira, and it just highlights the values over here. It's not very helpful as it is, so let's wrap it up in some of the functions. And the simplest function we can use is conditional functions, if else. So if something is true, not true, give me some result. So I can say if story points, which would means if story points exist, if it's true. Just give me the text output, and text output is normally wrapped inside the quotes. So story points exist. Very simple. So if it exists across any of the items, and again, Formula calculates the output for each row independently. So it shows me that story points exist. I can add the else condition. So if what happens if there's no value, that would be else. And again, I use text, no story points. Very simple, very toy example. Let's use different type of a variable. So let's go for due date. So again, if I type due date, it would suggest me the due date field. It should be mapped to the due date. By default, all date and time fields in Jira are showing milliseconds. So this is the number of milliseconds here. It's okay if you just operate with this field inside the formula, but you want to see the human readable output. You can change it, to the date time and maybe style like this one. But I'm going to use the general because I'm going to use some functions around that. Again, I'm going to use if else function, if due date. In this case, I want to see if something is overdue, something is in the past. So I'm going to compare the due date with today's date. So I have today as a function, it's over here. So it's less than today. Again, I'm using semicolon for the result of this function. And I'm going to use text saying overdue, like that. And everything is overdue. Again, pretty simple, just starting very easy. Let's now look how we can get the same results with the Rovo agent. So the Rovo agent exists within the Rovo itself. You can access it through the Rovo and searching for the agent formula like this. But we also embedded it inside the formula column, and you can just click on the Rovo agent within the column. It will try to parse right away what it sees, suggest you some results, how you can start. It's kind of pre-created prompts. But what I want to do now, so I want to type, I want to see which items are overdue based on the due date field value. And again, the more precise prompt is, the more correct result it will produce. If it is overdue, show me the text overdue. I need to put it into the quotes. Okay, let's see how it does. Okay, it provides me a couple of options. For some reason, it very, very keen to use Wiki Markdown to use some different coloring and highlighting. I'm going to talk about Wiki Markdown a little bit later, so I'm going to use the first option here. And I'm actually going to use the different column. Copy paste here and see if it, yep, it does the same. So just using the prompt, we can provide pretty much the same results I did with the syntax directly. All right, let's move on. The next example is using functions. And before I do that, I want to click on the documentation button here, which brings us to the foremost section in our documentation. There's a lot of information about the foremost, but the one I want to highlight here is a function section. And this section contains all the functions that we can use within structured formulas. There's a standard function, there's a lot of them, and there's a aggregated function, or aggregate functions. The aggregate functions allows you to obviously aggregate information from the different levels on a particular level, or from a particular level, top level, to the lower levels. So we can move the data back and forth between the different levels of hierarchy. And this is very important. Structure is all about hierarchy. So we can move this information to get additional highlights on the different specific levels. One of the most commonly used function, aggregate function, is sum. So it's summarizing values. Aggregating functions use curly brackets. So if you see curly brackets, that definitely means this is something that aggregates information. So let's do story points as a variable again. So and just summarize story points. And what it does, it summarizes everything throughout the hierarchy on the top, and it behaves pretty much similar as a standard column with story points if I click some or sub items. So it puts everything from the low levels to the higher levels. So it's not very helpful in this way. What I can do is I can add a modifier, and modifier, it's additional property to the function. So each aggregate function can use some modifiers, and modifiers, it changes how this aggregative logic works. So do we want to aggregate all the values from the hierarchies? Do we want to aggregate just direct children? Do we want to grab some particular level children? So this can be very complex depending on your use case. In this example, I'm going to use some of the children. This is aggregating from direct children underneath. I'm going to aggregate the story points on the parent level from the children level. This can be even more complex if I want to grab values from the children which are in a particular status. So inside curly brackets, I can write if status equals done, which means stories in a complete status, and semicolon, grab the story points. So now it would only aggregate on the parent level story points from children which status is incomplete, which may be helpful if you want to compare how many stories have completed underneath the epic and how many stories are not completed, and build some kind of metric based on that. All right. Another example of aggregated function is max function, which kind of self-explanatory. It produces the maximum result of the other results. Example I can use is a due date. So it's a maximum value of the due date from the hierarchy underneath. And again, I'm gonna zoom it in just to children's underneath. So it's the latest due date of the children of the epics I have right now. So that means pretty much when my epic is going to be completed, because it's the last item underneath my epic. And I'm probably going to change it to date to be more human readable. Actually, let's try to have the same result with the Rovo agent. So again, if I go back and I say something like, I want to know the latest due date. The latest due date value of children's items. And again, because I want to be specific, I need to say it should be shown at parent level. Again, it looks like I'm not in the formula agent right now. It general Rovo. So I'm going to bring the agent itself. Let's see. And yeah, it's pretty much the same formula. So you can see how easy it is. It becomes not that easy with the more complex formula, but the easy one is pretty much self-explanatory, and you needed the correct prompt with as much details as you can provide. All right, let's move on. The next example is, again, it's an aggregated function, but this time it's a parent. And parent, it's the opposite of the previous one. So when I used sum max, I aggregated the file on the parent level. With the parent, we can do the opposite. We can grab the parent's level information and put it on the children's level. So here, I'm going to use, as example, the temp account. So I have temp accounts, obviously, on Epic's level and on children's level. And in ideal world, it should be the same accounts. So let's calculate it. So I get some temp accounts. And I want to compare if all my children have belong to the same account as the parent. I can do that with function if, and I need to compare the current child account with the parent account. To get the child account, the account each of the items is, I just need to use the temp account because, again, formula works across each item. So it checks the temp account of the story, and then I can compare it with the parent account. So if it's not the same, it's not equal, there's definitely some kind of problem. If I do it like that, it will put the values on Epic level because Epic doesn't have parents. That means there's no account, and it compares it with the child account, and obviously there's no match. So I want to limit this formula just for the storage, just for the second level. And I can do that with saying type not equals Epic. And I should get the end because it's the same condition. So now we can see that we have stories that have different accounts and parent, and obviously I need to pay attention to that and change that. Okay, let's move on. Next important thing with the formulas is arrays. So it's a concept of multiple values in the same place. Some of the Jira fields are arrays fields like sprint. Each item can be in multiple sprints. That means each sprint field can hold multiple sprint values, same for the fixed versions. And we have lots of functions that can work specifically with arrays, and it's very helpful functions because you can do a lot with arrays. You can create your own arrays and parse that. Some examples here. So if I go and look at the sprints, so again, I use sprint field. It'll map to the sprint. You can see that some of my items have multiple sprints. And I can use specific functions that can be used with arrays. And again, if I go to the documentation and I move to the standard function, there's array functions. And there's a whole bunch of different options here I can use. So I'm going to use function called first, which is self-explanatory. It takes, I just need to type correctly. It takes the first value of the array. So it means that I'm going to look at which string these items was first, or I can look at the last ones. So I can say, okay, show me the last string this item is right now. Let's make it a little bit more complex. I can actually create arrays myself. I already mentioned that, and it's very helpful because I can organize the different information in one place, like multiple values from the children on the parent level, and then I can parse that to get some more specific information. So I can create an array with array function. So I get the array. I'm going to use the modifier for children. So I'm going to only grab the values from the children's. And inside it, I'll say, give me an array of start dates, but only if status in to do. So I can say if status equals to do, give me start date. So it brings me the start dates. Oh, some hours. It gives me the start dates, all the start dates of the children underneath, and each of these values is array of different start dates. So now I'm going to use the array function to parse that information. So I'm going to reuse that value in my other code below, and not to write the same statement once again. I'm going to put it inside the local variable. So local variable is just a variable that refers some of the calculation that already exist in the formula. So I'm going to type with, which defines a variable, then variable name, which would be not started. And when we define a variable, it should not have spaces in the name and counting at the end. So now I have my not started variable, and I'm going to reuse that. So I'm going to use if statement, if my not started variable, so if these values, if any of these, and I'm going to use any function that helps work with arrays. So any of these consist of the value, and we use this $sign to go over each value in array. So any of these values less than today. So the start date is in the past. So we are late. So if there are any of the start dates that in the past right now, we are late. So there's a way to bubble up the information from the stories on the parent level based on the particular start dates. So it's not ideal way to do that. There are other ways to do that, but it's a good example of how can you create your own arrays and work with the data within these arrays. Okay, let's move on. The next concept is properties. I already mentioned that. So property is something that exists on top of the value in the field. And there are different properties available from the Jira items. And again, if I go back to my documentation and type properties, and I need to type correctly, obviously. There's item property option. And if I click on it, there is a list of attributes and their properties. So you can select any of these, like sprint, and sprint has start date, end date, states, goal, and we can grab this property from a field value, and again, work with that. So the example I want to show you is, again, with the sprints. So I use sprint last sprint these items are currently in. And I use state. So it is the state of the last sprint. It can be future, it can be closed, active. What I want to look at is if the state of this sprint equals active. So it's active sprint. So it's active. And the end date of this sprint already passed. So I can say, and again, I use this sprint last, and I put end date at the end, and it's less than today, so it's in the past. So what it means, the sprint is still active, but the end date of the sprint is already passed. So we haven't completed the sprint, although we should have. So definitely that's not okay. And it should be a condition, obviously. So I should put if at the beginning. So if sprint active and the end date is in the past, give me not okay. Let's see. We have not okays. We have not okays. So again, using property, we can look at some additional information which is not really surfaceable easily from the Jira data. Right, let's move on. I'm going a little bit fast because we have limited time, and I want to try as much example as possible, as much functionality as possible. We will have a deep dive session, which I think we mentioned at the end, about the formula series. When I go over each concept, it will be pre-recorded session with multiple series. And if you want to go and learn more deeply about how formula works, it will be much more helpful. All right. The next example is actually, again, about the properties, is working with the issue links. And if I look at the properties list, there is issue link options here, and there's a lot of additional properties that can be derived from the issue links. And issue links, it's just a connection existing in Jira between multiple items. So to access the issue links itself, we can type issue links, which brings me all the list of all issue links going in both directions. And issue links always bi-directional in Jira. It goes from the item and goes back to the item. And if we want to look at the specific issue links, like I want to see blockers, so the items that blocks my or blocked by my items in my scope, I need to parse that array of values, and again, it's array of values, and just surface the ones that I specifically need. And I'm going to do that with the filter function, which filters the result of my array based on a certain condition. And inside that filter, again, I'm going to use $sign, and I'm going to tell this function which criteria to use to filter this array. And there's a use type, and type is a issue link type. In my case, it's called blocks. But there's the types of issue links, and there's direction, so it can be inward and outward. It goes both directions. So I need to specifically say destination. So destination, where these links come to, and destination should be these items. So I want the blockers for my items in my scope. Let's see. So I narrow down the results. Now I will only use the source, so the items which blocks my current issues. This is the source, so this is the blockers. And if I want, I can go even deeper and say, show me the status. This is the status of my blockers. We actually have bundle formulas, so predefined formulas here. And one of those is open blockers, which very similar to what I did. So it's a formula that shows blockers that are not completed, not done. So that means they affect your current scope. So what we can actually try to do now, let me return to the key values, is to do the same with the formula agent. So I go to the formula and open the formula agent. I have pre-built script, so I'm not going to bother you with my slow typing. So I want to see blockers for my items in the board. The blockers use blocks issue link type, so I'm very specific here, and they blocks my current items. So I don't want to see the outwards items, which I specify here. I don't want to see which items are blocked by my current items in the board. So let's see how my AI buddy solves that. It will take some time, and it will even suggest me to add automatically the formula column. So let's see. So that's the column. See, so it's the same. So it created the same results with the same, pretty much using a slightly different syntax, but with the same output. So again, using the native language allows you to do pretty much the same. Just need to be, the more complex formula is, the more specific you need to be with your prompt. Right, let's move on. The other example here I want to show you is how the formula can be used to work with the tempo data. So I have tempo timesheets, tempo plan installed in the same instance. I have access to planner and planned and log time. And if you do that, you have these specific columns here, which are tempo log time. I'm going to use all the time, and tempo plan time. And again, I'm going to use all the time. So we can refer this column and build some specific metrics. So Planner has reports that allows you to slice and dice that information, but we can do similar things here based on our scope and our hierarchy. So the example I'm going to use here is, first I'm going to look at the utilization. So I'm going to use tempo log time, and I'm going to divide it by tempo plan time. See, so it marked correctly. I get this divided by 0. That means some of the values are empty, and I definitely don't want that. So I'm going to put an additional condition at the beginning saying if there's a tempo plan time, meaning that there is a value, then do the calculation. So that's kind of utilization of my time. I can look at the percentage if I want it. But I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to look at the work efficiency. And to do that, I'm comparing this utilization with the real progress I have on my items. And progress can be calculated differently. Again, it's depend on the use case. We have predefined progress. I'm going to use progress by status. And I'm going to put the percentage. So I'm going to use that in my formula. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that as a local variable. So I say with, let's call it utilization. Utilization equals, so that's my local variable. And here I'm going to put the my logic. So logic would be progress, which is progress by status. Let's see, it marks correctly. Progress by status divided by utilization. And again, because there might be 0 values, I put the condition here. If utilization, do the calculation. So that's my utilization of my time. And look at percentage. You see that this real good utilization. I've done 50% of the work in 1 hour, though I planned 1 day. So it's very good efficiency or very bad planning. Anyway, it surfaced some of the information which is important for me. All right, it took a little bit longer time than I expected. Let's move on. Very quickly, Formula allows you to look at the historical data as well. So I'm not going to type this example now because of the time constraints, and just copy paste it. In the variable section, if you map it to some of the variables like status, for example, it provides you an option for array of historical value. And that means all the values of this field are stored as array. So we can grab this storage of the data and then parse it to get the specific information. In this case, I want to filter that to a specific text. So I want to look at specific status and progress. I want to look when it happened first time, when it first moved into progress, and then when we move to that status. And that will give me the date and time. Let's choose this one. And that's pretty much my first transition to progress. So I can use it for building cycle times. I can grab the values from when it's completed and just get cycle time. I can grab the first transition to open or to do and calculate the lead time. So we have a lot of options here with these historical values, and we can apply that to different types in Jira as well. I wanted to show how Rovo agent can help here as well. So I'm going to put the similar formula, but it has some it's not misspelling actually, it's some wrong logic. I'm going to type it to status. I'm going to use array. And what formula should have done, it should show me how many times issues return to in progress status. And I'm pretty sure that there is multiple times some of this item having moved back and forth from the in progress status, but it now shows the 0. And it's not a syntax mistake. So because if there is a syntax mistake, it will highlight that right away. There is some logic that is not really correct for this particular formula. So I can ask Rovo, and if we click ask Rovo here, it will take the value from your formula window and parse it and look at what possible is wrong and how it can help with that. Let's come from selected and see. Excuse me. It couldn't create a column for some reason. That happens. So I just copy paste this value and replace my formula with the one provided by Rovo agent. So I have some values now. So it corrected the results. So it's in our ways to use the formula. So if something's not working, it's not giving you results, you can try back and forth with the Rovo agent, asking to help and to solve this problem. All right. And probably the last thing I want to mention before we move to the QA is Wiki Markdown. So Wiki Markdown, I already mentioned that, is a way to highlight information. It's a formatting language. And I guess we should have some kind of pre-built examples here. So let's look at the risk metric. So that's one of the examples. It's a very good example of Wiki Markdown. So it's a formula that uses background, it uses bold text, it uses emojis, all combined in one place. And this different visualization would be based on different logic that are put in the formula. So I can use it for statuses, highlighting some risks, highlighting how health metrics can change from based on different conditions, like, again, status and progresses. And for some reason, I already mentioned that Rovo agent is very keen to build formulas with Wiki Markdown. So it's very good exercise to go there and ask him, give me some due dates with the visualization that it will provide you various options with multiple Markdowns highlights. You can also go into our documentation, and there is a sample formulas over here, which has this Markdown section. And these are all examples of the different Markdowns you can use. So if you can just copy paste that and put it in my formula, calculate, change the output format to Markdown, and that's it. Right, so it's very briefly, very fast over different functionalities. Hope it was helpful. And yeah, we can move, I guess, to the next section of our presentation.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Alex. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Julia to talk a little bit more about some exciting things coming in structure.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to use this opportunity to share a little bit about our broad maps and things that are coming soon, but also what has been released recently. So just recently we released the Formula Rovo agent, which Alex showed to you. So it is part of the structure right now and available for everyone who use Rovo, who have Rovo on their Jira instance. We also added the structure API. So right now it's possible to create structures via public API or create the views or make some specific view default for your structure. And we're going to improve this API this year more and more. And we also introduced labels recently, so you can categorize your structure. You can create your own custom label, but also several of them are just built in, like tracking, planning, so you can mark your structure and easier found them in the list. What's coming soon, it's support of different platforms like government and related cloud, but also tighter integration with Jira, better support of Atlassian assets, and also just improvements for our search. So if you used our DC version before, it was easier to work with two structures at the same time, which is not the case right now for cloud, but gonna be very, very soon. And I want to share a little bit more about our early access programs. And what we want to do really soon, and we really need your feedback for. First is support of data from multiple Jira instances in one view. So if you have different Jiras that track, separate departments, or probably some Jira came due to acquisition, but you want to track the data from different instances in one place, this multi-Jira support is for you. And if you're interested to try this feature, please ask us. Same for structure AI creation. So we are working more and more with the Rovo and other AI tools. And really soon we want to introduce their possibility to create the structure itself via natural language request. And also we want to support Atlassian goals inside of the structure, so you can keep your strategic goals with execution data in the very same page. And if you're interested in our EAP programs, please join us. We can contact you.
All right. We'll go ahead and start the live Q&A. Okay, so the first question we had, and Alex and Julia, feel free to chime in. Alex, I'll start with you on this one. Can you use the structure number fields, not the Jira fields, but the structure number fields as input for your formulas?
Yeah, so structure allows you to add, if someone don't know that, structure allows you to add local values or local fields, call it flex fields. And yeah, you can use it in the formula. So if you want to calculate some results just inside your structure without using any Jira information, yeah, it's definitely possible. And then you can copy that result in Jira if needed.
Awesome. Okay. Julia, I'll ask you this one. Does the formula column affect structure performance at all?
Yes and no. Well, if you use their scripted fields by script runner, these fields are kind of heavy and really affect how Jira works and how structure works. So if you use it as a variable, it can be like a little heavy for the structure itself. But in general, we do have a lot of safeguards in structure, so usually it's not a problem unless you have really huge calculations and super huge structures.
Okay, thank you. Another one for you, Julia. For blockers, I use dependencies in Jira is implemented by /implements, so the relationships can be shown. Did the demo show another concept, or is there another way to do this?
Yeah, this is that I wanted to highlight, that you can use any type of the dependency you're interested in. So structures just work with everything that you have in your Jira. This is what Alex actually showed. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And then Alex, what version of structure provides access to issue history?
So this is the cloud, like everyone usually has the same version in the cloud. And it's available for a long time, so everyone should be able to use this history data. There's just a limitation that not all fields support that, so we don't support all the fields in Jira. And there's a list of fields in our documentation that you can use with the historical values, with the array of values.
Awesome. Okay. And I think we've got time for one final question. Alex, are there any helpful and common formulas for support and Jira service management teams that we didn't take a look at today?
Yeah, there are actually a lot. We've seen a lot structure used by support teams, specifically in our organization. We have pretty big structure with formulas that highlight different metrics for the specific support teams. Because there's so you can use the Jira itself and the Jira service management, but it's not sometimes easy to go through all the queues and like visualize all the different type of tickets that you need to answer. And the way we do it is we use formulas in the column to highlight which items are, which time and status different, which time to first answer is like exceeding. So we can highlight this with the formula in Wiki Markup. We can use also formula in filters, so we can filter by some particular formula result, and we can write a formula that organized all the queues issues in the particular folders, like it should be answered first, it should be answered second. So we can reorganize the queues additionally on top of what Jira Service Management provides.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And then we're actually going to do one final question. This one's for you, Dimitri. I have difficulties mapping variables at the Jira space level used by Jira third-party add-ons. For example, I'm using Project Track, which allows me to add variables at the project level, but I can't get them into a structure formula. Do you know how to do this?
I can actually answer that as well. So the way the mapping works in structure, we try to have accessible to all the fields, all the native fields in Jira on top of the all the custom fields, because, well, different applications create different custom fields in Jira itself. We have access by default to some of them, but some of the applications create very specific custom fields, and they are not really visible to other apps. So we're not native Jira, we also application. So we kind of need to talk with the different application. So in this case, if it's not by default visible, if you cannot add this field as a column, so if you try to add just as a column and it's not available, that means we cannot access that field directly, and we need to build a specific integration with this application and with this field. We do that for some of the apps, with most used apps, but normally if you cannot access some of the fields, that means we don't have yet integration with that, and it's a feature request. We probably might add it in the future.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, so just to wrap things up, we're going to briefly cover some resources. I know we're reaching the end of our time here, so I'm not going to go through all of these, but I did want to call out a couple of things here, as they're a little bit newer resources that y'all can access. And y'all will receive these after the webinar as well. The first one is our Tempo Learning Center. So this is an on-demand hub where y'all can go to learn at your own pace about all things structure, as well as our other products we have here at Tempo. So definitely recommend checking that out. And then the last one I want to call out is the Structure Formulas video series, which Alex brought up in the beginning. This will be coming soon. It's going to be a multi-episode series that will teach you the building blocks of formulas and how to best use them. And then by the end of it, you'll be writing your own custom formulas that are tailored to your team's unique workflows. So definitely keep an eye out for that. That's also going to go on our Learning Center, so y'all will be able to access it from there. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the webinar. There's going to be a pop-up survey when the webinar ends. It'll ask you some questions about the content we covered today. So we really appreciate all of your answers, your feedback, and any suggestions you may have. You're also going to get a follow-up email with the recording of the webinar and the slide deck we use that's going to have all of those amazing resources that we covered today. So thanks again, everybody, for attending and for participating. If some of you too didn't get to respond to the EAP survey and you're interested in that, we can definitely follow up with you, and the link to that will be in the slides as well. But we hope to see y'all at our next learning webinar, and have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for joining.